Hey there guys, welcome to the video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today we'll be looking at a Solar Time build using the Shieldburst aspect alongside the exotic item, the Lament. Now we'll be using the Lament with Strongholds. It is a bit of a staple with swords. As you can see there, we're getting a lot of damage reduction, a lot of health regen, a lot of damage out too, and the ability to basically generate our own ammo with the weapon. Now, we'll be able to do this alongside the artifact. There are about 3 different artifacts you could use this weapon with. We're sticking with one in particular today, but if you want to see a little bit more about how this works and what we can do to use these 2 items and the aspect in conjunction with each other, make sure you stick around. Let's get into it. All right, let's have a look at the exotic weapon. So the Lament, it is essentially just a chainsaw sword. It's got a rotating blade on the right-hand side there, but the intrinsic trait, Banshee's Wail, every light hit that you hit in a combo will give you 3 stacks of Banshee's Wail. And then when you do a heavy attack, it'll reset the Banshee's Wail counter. So you need to get in at least 2 or 3 light attacks before you do a heavy to get the most damage out of it, and it will absolutely decimate anti-barrier champions. Alongside this intrinsic trait, we've also got the perk Rev's Consumption, which whenever we damage or defeat an enemy, it will give you health back. So sort of a bit of a vampiric trait there. Gives you health upon defeating an enemy or hitting them. And that works well with our Strongholds. Now, as I said earlier, the Strongholds on the Titan with a sword-based build is a bit of a staple. It's just too good to pass up. And the reason being is it maximizes our guard stats on any equipped heavy ammo sword. You take reduced damage while you block with the sword, and rapidly damaging targets after blocking shots with the sword grants you restoration. So lots of different combinations in there, but giving us the damage reduction on top of restoration gives us the ability to sort of blast into enemies, chop them up, jump out, and still have the ability to sustain a lot of damage but stay on top and basically come out fully healed. Now, like at the start of the video, we see we're using the Shieldburst aspect. Now, using that with a sword, bit of an odd combination, but I found it to be really helpful. As you can see in some of these examples in the background here, it helps to thin out a lot of the red bars or even yellow bars. Just whittle them down a little bit, and then you can go in and mop them up with the sword, just with your guard up or with the chainsaw revved. As you can see here, getting absolutely inundated with fire. We get down a couple there and then explode the barrier off to the right-hand side, and it clears out the enemies just so we can get a good hit into the boss. Now, that's just one example. You could use this in a more defensive aspect, but I found it to be a very good offensive option as well. Now, I just want to touch on the other 2 weapons we're using. Year-Tide Apex, it's solar, and it has the ability to stun overload champions, so we've got that covered. Resounding will take care of unstoppables, but it also activates Slice with our class ability. So you put the barricade up, activate Slice, and then when we pop the barricade, that'll activate Slice again. So getting a sort of a double dip of Slice activation with our barricade. Now, we'll go over the rest of the subclass. We've touched on the Shieldburst aspect, but let's have a look at the rest of it. So the Rally Barricade, melee ability does not matter at all. We basically will not be using it at all. We can essentially use the sword all the time. The grenade, I opted for the Restoration Grenade. Look, I found that sometimes I wasn't getting enough health regen on the high levels of difficulty. If you're, say, on like, I don't know, just like normal or -20 or something like that, choose whatever grenade you like. You should have enough health regeneration happening without having to choose that grenade. Other aspect we're using is Soul Invictus. Now, Soul Invictus is really good because every time we get a heavy kill after the cooldown occurs, we get a sunspot generating, which gives us our health regeneration too, along with ability regen. In terms of fragments, guys, lots of ways we can go about it. The Lament can be used in many different ways. With our build, we're going to be using Restoration or Radiant Activation or extensions to those 2 abilities there, along with Ember of Singeing, which is going to give us a class ability Recharge, which is faster when we scorch targets. So the Lament Catalyst will scorch targets, so we're getting that benefit there. If you want to go for a more Ignition-based build, you'd probably swap out a couple for Ember of Eruption and Ember of Char. Those 2 will really help in that aspect. I prefer a more support-based build, and that's what I've revolved around for today. Let's have a look at the armor mods, guys. So our helm is going to have 2 harmonic siphons, so we can get some orbs of power happening with our Lament kills. 1 heavy ammo finder, just in case you need a little bit more. Like I said, you find it very hard to run out of ammo, but if you do need it there, it's just another sort of guarantee that you'll have enough there for it to be able to be used. Now, the arms looks a little bit weird. Now, I could not get any of this armor to drop with melee stat. My melee stat was pretty well 0, and I got really pissed off with my stats, and I couldn't be bothered going to get any more drops because I don't know what it was. I was absolutely allergic to melee stat. So my grenade was absolutely overtuned. In that respect, that's why I've got a higher grenade stat, because I was putting down restoration grenades where I could. But ultimately, you want melee to be the main stat there. Well, one of the main stats, I should say. So disregard that. I probably put melee fonts in there if you need it, but that's the reason I've got the grenade font. Chest is going to be a couple of ammo gens for our weapons, as well as a lucent blade just to help our sword charge rate. We've got a solar surge ×2 on the legs with a solar scavenger. Again, just so we get a few more reserves when we pick up a brick. And then our mark is going to be Reaper, time dilation, and our powerful attraction. Now, I touched very slightly on these stats there. Ultimately, what you want is 200 weapons. Absolutely, you want to be doing as much damage as you can with your Lament. Probably anywhere between 70 to 100 melee if you can get it. Our class ability is probably next because you want to have your barricade up as much as possible. If you're over 100, that will give you a bit more damage when you activate your burst as well. So anything over 100 doesn't hurt. Super, you really, honestly, all your damage is going to be output by Lament. So you don't really need to worry too much about super. It's not a necessity, but outside of that, grenade and health probably don't really matter too much. Honestly, your health stat might as well be 0 because you're getting so much health regenerating from Lament and Restoration. Don't need to worry too much about that. Grenade, like I said, it is more of a particular option. Like I said, I had really bad stats, so that's why I went grenade. But outside of that, yeah, focus on your weapons, then your melee, and then your class. My armor sets that I was using were the 2-piece Swordmaster, so damaging a target with a sword, for example, exhaust your target, which reduces their outgoing damage, and then the 2-piece Sage Protector. Because I was stuck with a high grenade stat, I just found that to be sort of helpful for me. Probably not integral to the build, and if you're going a higher melee stat, which I've advised to, then probably not one to go for. If you're going to look at a particular armor set to sort of focus on, if you're going for big damage, and this is probably going to tie into our artifacts, which we'll go through in a sec, but if you're looking for big damage, you probably want to be looking at the Atheon's Memory armor set bonus. So this is the Kabir armor set, which is available through the Vault of Glass. Now, it is a raid set armor, which is generally hardest to get, and I try to shy away from raid stuff, but in the event where it does work a lot, I'd certainly would recommend it. Now, the 4-piece for this armor set is, while you have a subclass buff, dealing sustained damage creates an orb of power. So basically, if you're hitting your enemies with your light attacks, so your light attack combo into your heavy combo, you'll consistently get orbs of power generating. And this is going to help with our artifacts. So let's go and have a look at our artifact selections. The one I've been using at the time of this build is the Implement of Curiosity. So you can see the applied artifact perks there. Fever and Chill, so we can get Radiant happening. But alongside our Horde Shuttle and Cauterized Darkness for our Strand synergy with Resounding, and then working into Radiant Shrapnel because we'll have Radiant most of the time, and then Iron Lord's Vigor, just so we've got the ammo generation occurring quite frequently, and it's sort of how it's all tied in. I've got enough ammo coming back for these Vanguard activities where we won't run out. But if you want to go for big boss damage, I think this might be the better option. It's the Hunter's Journal. So the reason why this works so well with single target damage is Argent Blade. So when you have armor charge, it will consume an armor charge and empower your sword. Now this works really well for Lament. You get huge numbers out. Alongside, if you build into Ember of Ignition and Ember of Char, Solar Fulmination's explosion is huge. It is an extremely large radius of explosive damage, and because we're proccing it quite often with those those fragments and the catalyst for Lament, you can get some really big damage happening. Now, the last artifact I wanted to note was the Tablet of Ruin, and it was purely for one perk only, Elemental Supercharger. Now, Elemental Supercharger works off defeating enemies with weapons that use the same subclass, but they have to be exhausted or overloaded or some form of that variant. Now, because we're using the 2-piece armor set for Swordmaster, where each sword hit exhausts enemies, that works perfectly, and you will see a decent boost in your super generation. Now, it's not required that you get your super back very often, but if you want to play it that way, certainly spec into that and you'll get a ton of super ability coming back really quickly with each kill. Well, that's going to be the build for today, guys. Hopefully you learned something about Lament. I know I spent a ton of time with this and learned a lot about it. I've got a newfound respect for it. Swords aren't my biggest forte. I don't use them a lot, but I think with Lament, I think I probably will be using a bit more. I'm going to sort of test out how this boss damage works, because I'm very interested to see how much damage we can do on some raid bosses, dungeon bosses. And I did spend a little bit more time sort of researching this one because I didn't want to sort of put something out that I wasn't familiar with. And that was probably reflected in the fact that as of this recording and this voiceover, this is my 108th voiceover attempt for each little section. Most sections I will sort of stop and then continue on. Because I'm so unfamiliar with this weapon type, I've had to sort of re-record things over and over again. I've made so many mistakes. So hopefully the information that we've got here is accurate. Again, I had a lot of fun with it. Let me know your thoughts on it anyway. I do appreciate you checking this one out and all the support as usual. We just hit 1,600 subscribers too. So since the last update dropped, we've gained 1,000 subscribers and, you know, we're closing in on 300,000 views. So guys, the support has been massive. I appreciate everyone who watches it and all the feedback, positive, negative, I'll take it all. So thanks again for watching, guys. See you in the next one.